bestbookbits.com brings you the book summary of Everyday Ubuntu, Living Better Together the African Way by Mungi Ngomane. This book will open your eyes, mind and heart to a way of being in the world that will make our world a better and more caring one. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, author of the Book of Joy, who forwarded this book. Ubuntu is an ancient Southern African philosophy about how to live life well together. It is a belief in universal human bond, which says, I am because you are. It means that if you see everyone as fully human, connected to you by their humanity, you will never be able to treat others as disposable or without worth. By embracing the philosophy of Ubuntu, it's possible to overcome division and be stronger together in a world where the wise build bridges and the foolish build walls. These 14 beautifully illustrated lessons from the Rainbow Nation are an essential toolkit to helping us all to live better together. In stories, practical lessons and applications that recognize our common humanity, our connectedness and interdependence. Everyday Ubuntu helps us to make sense of the world and our place in it, exploring ideas and kindness and forgiveness, tolerance and the power of listening. This definite guide offers practical tips on how we can all benefit from embracing others and living a more fulfilling life as part of a large family to which we all belong. On with the book summary. Chapter 1. To feel genuine in having a place, we should recognize humankind's interconnectedness. Present-day tech is a twofold edged blade. It gives us access to unfathomable data and lets us associate with individuals around the world. It additionally entices us to turn our looks onto ourselves, to fabricate computerized hallowed places, to live lives that are venerated with preferences, shares, and retweets. And keeping in mind that our gathering may number in the thousands, we have never been lonelier. Ubuntu is a South African way of thinking which trains that all people are profoundly interconnected. Concerning its establishment, it requests that we search externally, recognizing the humankind in others. At the point when we do this, our conduct changes. It's difficult to abuse others on the off chance that we perceive their inalienable worth. Each individual we collaborate with gets deserving of our regard, regardless of whether we're drawn out accomplice or the mailman conveying our mail. This mentality is very not quite the same as the Western perspective, which sets us in the opposition to one another. Our online networking feeds to call attention to all the things we need, the things we're advised we need to be upbeat. We continually contrast our lives with companions and outsiders the same, taking note of the considerable number of reasons why their lives are better than our own. Ubuntu provokes us to flip our reasoning. Rather than utilizing others as a state of correlation, it welcomes us to concentrate rather on what another person brings to our lives. Their commitment may be little, a more bizarre holding the entryway open for you, or enormous, a friend or family member thinking about you while you're wiped out. When we move our intuition to how somebody has added to our lives, we let go of the ideas of needs and rivalry. By searching externally in a positive manner, we begin perceiving that we are so associated with the lives of everyone around us. Also, this feeling of having a place brings us comfort. Associating with everyone around you isn't as troublesome as you would suspect. A decent spot to begin with is looking at individuals without flinching when you communicate. Attempt it next time when you're paying for your food supplies or getting your laundry. This is an incredibly method to have a brief, however significant, cooperation with another human being who is adding to your life. Chapter 2. To interface with others, we should investigate their points of views as well. Attempt to envision you're a black woman living in Johannesburg during politically sanctioned racial segregation. Consequently, you see neediness in dark townships while white networks get more extravagant. Also, more regrettable, you witness horrendous savagery. It's normal to reason that a lady in these circumstances would adhere to white individuals in these networks. Be that it may, Ubuntu solicits us to think about situations from others, regardless of whether we profoundly can't help contradicting them. All in all, for what reasons we need to associate with individuals who foster savagery and bad form. To clarify, how about we come back to the model above? Author of the book had her mother had recently this experience. Instead of naturally censoring white South Africans, however, she thought about what she would do on the off chance that she was one of them. Would she acknowledge the benefits of white society on the off chance that she'd been brought to accept up in racial oppression? Would she surrender those beliefs for outsiders? A great many people acknowledge conditions that advantage them, perceiving this permitted in the author's mum to consider white to be as regular people benefiting from a circumstance as opposed to intrinsically insidious individuals. She turned out to be less critical, pondering rather why someone would carry on in a harmful manner. As an undergrad understudy living in an offer house in Sydney, the author had the option to draw on her mum's shrewdness. At the point when a companion was visiting from abroad, a portion of her gems disappeared. The author suspected that a specific housemate was the criminal. She was angry at selling out of trust. Be that as it may, a visit with her mum helped her understand that her anger towards the housemate won't help. Rather, the author assembled a house conference and the liable party conceded that she had taken the gems. That wasn't all, however. She trusted that she was bulimic and had a motivational issue. That is a long way from her family had intensified diseases. Her housemate had no clue that she was battling to such an extent, since they know they had the option to offer the genuinely necessary help. At the point when we set aside the effort to involve another person's point of view, we begin perceiving how they've shown up to those positions, regardless of whether we can't help contradicting them. This gives individuals back their humankind. They're not, at this point, only the unfeeling white individuals or the hoodlum. This methodology likewise gives us more prominent quietness. We see that somebody's activities are genuinely less about us and increasingly about their situation. Chapter 3. Regarding others reconnects us with our humankind. In the surge of present-day living, it's anything but difficult to overlook what a little signal can hold remarkable force. The author's granddad, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, was at one time a young man living in a poor, dark township in Johannesburg. As he strolled down the road with his mum, a white cleric named Trevor Hoddleson raised his cap as he passed them. This motion of regard to Tutu's mum just took a couple of moments, however, it changed Tutu's point of view. He understood that despite his encounters up to that point, not every single white individual treated dark individuals gravely. Regard is the cornerstone of Ubuntu. It instructs us that if we regard ourselves, we're bound to regard others. What's more, on a comparative note, when we dehumanize others, we additionally dehumanize ourselves. By recognizing Tutu's mum as a kindred human of significant worth, Huddlestone respected his mankind as well. The initial step to rehearsing regard is to deal with ourselves. On the off chance that we don't, by what means we will have the vitality to help other people. Encouraging self-care implies setting aside the effort to eat well, work out, invest energy with friends and family, and watch out for our emotional well-being. This may mean attesting differential limits, like taking an appropriate midday break at work, regardless of whether this is hard to attest. The second means to rehearsing Ubuntu is to approach others with deference, paying little heed to what their identity is. This implies focusing on how we consider others. Nelson Mandela is an exceptionally good example with regards to rehearsing this kind of regard. Despite nerve-wracking conditions and awful treatment while he was detained on Robben Island, he reliably related well to his jail monitor, 18-year-old ace, politically sanctioned, racially segregated Christo Brand, even though their perspectives were perfect inverses. By getting some information about his life, Mandela uncovered a shared conviction between them. After some time, a fellowship developed to such an extent that Brand's perspective about political sanction, racial segregated changed. A long time later, Mandela shocked everyone by welcoming Brand to the conventional support that praised his initiation as South Africa's leader. By review, Brand as an esteemed human and not only a jail watch, Mandela made an association that changed Brand's point of view and offered others trust in a superior future. To treat others with more regard, focus on how you talk Do you lessen individuals to generalizations similar to the reprobate adolescent, or is your language noble and receptive? Chapter 4, Embracing Hope as a Condition, encourage us to bear testing encounters. Hope, it's a word a large number of us utilize each day. I hope it's bright this end of the week. I hope my gathering works out in a good way. I hope I get notification from the adorable person. Most of the time, we utilize hope to communicate something we need. Be that it may, hope is substantially more than that. How about we delay here for a fast exercise in semantics? Hope and optimism. A lot of muchness, isn't that so? Indeed, not actually. Ubuntu causes us to notice a significant distinction between the two. Hopefulness is a positive feeling and implies you're feeling quite certain that something you need will occur, similar to that charming person asking you out on the town. However, positive thinking is a flightly companion. If that person doesn't call, it will flip into cynicism. You may even wind up in a negative idea winding. This consistently occurs. Folks consistently baffle me. I'll never discover the affection I'm searching for. Optimism, then again, is much more unflattering than confidence. It's something we can decide to clutch, regardless of what's going on in our life. Receiving a disposition of optimism implies having confidence in ourselves and the innate decency of others and the world we live in. At the point we decide to live in a condition of optimism, it implies we won't surrender. This is the thing that makes hope a lot more remarkable than positive thinking. It's unavoidable that our excursion through life won't generally be smooth. Indeed, even the most special among us will confront difficulties once in a while. Be that it may, a demeanor of optimism makes us versatile during those occasions, so we can work through them. An investigation by Dr. Valerie Mellerholmes found that kids living in needlessness could effectively flourish in adulthood on the off chance that they kept up a cheerful disposition. Even though these kids confronted unexpected weaknesses, constrained access to assets, and the danger of getting associated with possess, they were as yet ready to get decent training and secure stable business. Optimism helped them persevere through their troublesome conditions and make a more promising time to come. To embrace a demeanor of optimism, focus on negative mental babble. Flip expressions like it's futile into something positive similar to it's conceivable. You ought to likewise compose an appreciation list day by day and practice self-care. Dealing with your well-being will consequently cause you to feel progressively positive. Chapter 5, Excusing Others, starts with recognizing their humanity. Being harmed by others is an unavoidable piece of life. Regularly, these rates are moderately little. Our darling overlooks our birthday, or an outsider is discourteous to us. Once in a while, however, we're profoundly harmed by the activities of others, genuinely, intellectually, and inwardly. During circumstances such as the present, pardoning appears to be incredible. We stick to our situation as the harmed party since we've been wronged. In any case, this is constrain us to remember our torment rather than allowing ourselves to recuperate. On the off chance that we've been fundamentally harmed by somebody, the exact opposite thing we'll want to do is remembering that whoever has wronged us is an individual as well. This is, in any case, precisely what Ubuntu empowers. At the point when we recognize that our culprit is an individual, our mind-boggling and defective as we seem to be, we can begin investigating how they may be thinking and feeling. Eventually, we can engage the possibility that their activities have been formed by their specific conditions. This was the experience that Ingrid von Stein had. In the mid-1980s, Ingrid was brutally assaulted by 4 men. Her assailants were indicted and sent to jail. That didn't bring Ingrid harmony. Embarrassed about what had occurred, she didn't share her involvement with the case. Individuals began taking a gander at her in an unexpected way. Rather, she fumed with outrage and sharpness. After 10 years, Archbishop Tutu, who she was working with at that point, persuaded Ingrid to get in touch with her assailants through a jail compromise program. Valiantly, Ingrid orchestrated an opportunity to see one of them. During this gathering, she discovered that the men had experienced childhood in neediness with injurious guardians. Ingrid knew firsthand what it resembled to endure on account of a heavy drinker father. As she saw her youth reflected in her attackers, the unbelievable occurred. Ingrid felt empathy for the man who had harmed her so gravely. This denoted the start of her excursion towards absolution. Excusing ourselves is a demonstration of self-esteem. It recuperates us inwardly. It's imperative to recall, however, that absolution is a procedure. On the off chance that you've been injured profoundly, you may need to commit once again to pardoning a few times over. This will take tolerance and industriousness. However, it will be justified, despite all the trouble toward the end, when you feel lighter, not so much troubled, but rather more associated with others. Chapter 6, Decent Variety, is a benefit we should grasp, not dread. Each person is an erratic creation, and not simply hereditary. We as a whole bring our gifts, chronicles, and perspectives into the world. It's interested at that point to consider how frightful we can be of individuals who are not quite the same as ourselves. Truly, however, on the off chance that we're all precisely the equivalent as a species would fall flat. Ubuntu urges us to make peace and perceive that all people are on this exciting and alarming experience of coexistence. On the off chance that we are all duplicates, the world would be an exceptionally exhausting spot. Significantly, we'd all offer similar qualities and shortcomings. Decent variety is the exceptional quality that encourages us to defeat each other's vulnerable sides and advantage from one another's availabilities. To generally grasp a sorted variety, we should initially recognize that each individual is the equivalent worth, regardless of what their identity is. We are no more or no less significantly than some other individual human. This sort of reasoning takes modesty. We need to shed our inner selves and be modest and open enough to find what others can instruct us. Everybody carries something novel to the table. With persistence and regard, we can discover what that offering is. Considering ourselves to be a piece of an expansion, comprehensive network encourages us to grasp decent variety, which prompts better results. The Tunisian dialogue, Quartel, which was shaped by the Arab Spring uprising in 2011, is a motivating case of decent variety at work. The union was comprised of people from four amazingly various associations: the General Labour Union, the Order of Lawyers, the Confederation of Industry, Trade and Handicrafts, and the Human Rights League. This various gathering figured out how to prevail with regards to advancing harmony, where even government officials had frizzled, an accomplishment that earned them a Nobel Peace Prize. Brought together by the objective to carry comprehensive and harmony to their nation, they tackled their assorted variety as a useful asset rather than a wellspring of contention. Our lives are perpetually improved by the assortment found inside our species. By the assortment found inside our species. From the nourishment we eat and the music we appreciate to the belief system we live by, decent variety is a gift we as a whole profit by. On the off chance that you end up deciding on somebody since they're unique about you, inquire as to whether that judgment is substantial or whether you're simply scared of the obscure. Chapter 7. To push ahead, we should be mercilessly legitimate about where we are. Envision you've broken your leg dropping out of a lounge. You have two choices: get the clinical consideration you need, or imagine you're fine. Which situation will prompt your leg recuperating? Having it appropriately set in a cast, or stumbling around and disregarding the issue? Ubuntu advises us to grasp our lives totally. The great, the awful, and the difficult. The great, the awful, and the difficult. The past and the present. This is the main way we can completely involve our lives. However, accomplishing this is no simple undertaking. It implies we need to relinquish deciding for ourselves and others, for the errors we've made and the hardships we've persevered. As a rule, confronting the truth is in every case more troublesome than denying it. Yet much the same as we've messed our leg, we can never completely recuperate it, except we take a gander at our lives genuinely. This was the plan of Truth and Reconciliation Commission, or the TRC, which was set up in the South Africa to recognise and address the shameful acts of politically sanctioned racial segregation. As a major aspect of its guarantees, the TRC was focused on bringing home the assemblages of killed relatives so they could be covered with nobility. At some point, however, a team revealing graves made a horrible revelation. The assortments of certain casualties had been taken care of to crocodiles. At that point, Archbishop Tutu was the seat of the TRC. On hearing the news, he was grief-stricken to the idea of the casualties' mums who might always be unable to let their kids go. Instead of quieting the circumstance, Tutu realized he needed to defy it. He freely communicated his distress, which motivated a collective overflowing of sympathy for the families in question. This demonstration of help got them some solace, their pain. As people, we're designed for compassion. Logical research has demonstrated that when we witness demonstrations of mischief on others, our cerebrums are animated, just as we're encountering the torment ourselves. While this may sound masochistic, it's a lovely blessing. It implies we're not intended to endure alone, we're intended to sympathize with one another's agony. Tolerating this makes contracting others for help similar when we recognize that we're confronting troublesome occasions. This demonstration of sympathizing with our torment and recognizing help yields another wonderful blessing. It develops our associations with others. Chapter 8. By listening profoundly, we become increasingly sympathetic and receptive. Tuning in is probably the best demonstration of regard we can pay another human. By genuinely turning into another person, we're giving them that their voice matters, regardless of whether we concur with them or not. Be that as it may, listening doesn't simply recognize another person's worth, it builds our own as well. It seems like a simple method to improve as an individual, isn't that so? All things considered, in all actuality, listening isn't simple. It requires some investment and exertion. There's a colossal contrast between listening profoundly and only hearing. To truly tune in, we should give another person our total consideration, disregarding all different interruptions, including our cell phone. We should look and utilize open nonverbal communication. Furthermore, to explain that we've seen efficiently, we ought to pose inquiries. The greatest test of tuning in, however, is setting our perspectives aside, briefly so we can find out about another's perspective. Given the entirety of this present, it's no big surprise that we don't listen all the more frequently. Who has the opportunity or vitality to be mindful of everyone they connect with? Not every person has something pertinent to state at any rate, correct? All things considered, rehearsing Ubuntu implies tuning in, regardless of whether we think something makes little difference to us. Recall our first part. We're interconnected, every one of us. We may think what someone needs to state has nothing to do with us. Be that as it may, by tuning into them, we build up our feelings of sympathy through discovering association and shared view. Consequently, we facilitate the weight of the individual sharing their story, strengthening their natural worth by recognizing that what they need to state has esteem. This is the reason administrations like Samaritan's phone hotlines are so significant. Every day of the year, 24 hours per day, it acknowledges calls without separation, making a protected space to talk and be tuned into. At the point when we decide to effectively tune in, we free ourselves up to the likelihood that we won't care for what we hear. Ubuntu can help us through this as well. Recalling that confronting the truth is a significant piece of the procedure, and recognizing that varying perspectives furnish us with the opportunity to learn, we begin utilizing others at a more profound level. What's more, if they pay us similar civility, we're on a definite way of making positive change. Book review. Because of the current technology, we're ready to associate with incalculable individuals from all over the globe, discovering companions and adversaries the same through the internet-based life. Be that as it may, those associations are frequently supported with regard for humankind. Despite what might be expected, we regularly use them to criticize our own lives. Ubuntu advises that each human is profoundly associated and that all individuals are similarly important due to their humankind. At the point when we grasp this conviction, we begin acting unexpectedly. We respect each individual we encounter, regardless of whether they play a little or enormous job in our lives. Because we see their value and their commitments they make, Indeed, even an outsider becomes somebody who merits our regard and sympathy. When we comprehend that we're a piece of associated and steady system, we'll show up at a position of serenity that genuinely having a place brings. Use diversion to interface with the lighter side of humankind. Chuckling makes us breathe in space among hardship and associates us with other people. In case you're humiliated about something that is transpired, contact somebody you realize who has an irresistible snicker and offer your story with them. By chuckling together, you'll change your shame into humor and develop nearer to your companion, who will no uncertainly have a comparative story to tell. And that's a wrap on this book summary, Everyday Ubuntu. If you like the book summary, click the link to download this. We at Best Book Bits have done over 1,000 summaries in video, written, and audio format. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. And I've also put together my top 450 best book bit summaries in one massive downloadable PDF. So click the link to download this as well. Thank you.